Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Detroit in Black and White. Let me turn my television down. I always have it playing in the background. Good morning to Saturday morning's edition to Detroit in Black and White. We want to welcome, I'm going to go the other way today, Jim Nardone, former police chief of the Trenton Police Department. Good morning, Jim. How are you?
Good morning.
And good morning, Allan Lengel, former writer for the Washington Post and the owner of Deadline Detroit.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you? And
Saturday morning.
I know, of course, am Vanessa Moss. Adolph is on vacation. He'll be back soon. So you guys don't have to answer. I've said it last night. I said it today. So you guys don't have to keep asking. When he comes back, he'll be back and lively as ever. We miss him, of course, but we know how to hold down the fort. What we're going to ask you to do, all of you guys that's joining this morning, Dave, good morning. You've been around. You haven't been around for a while, Dave. Karen Winston, Kenneth Powell, Dewayla, Mr. 1213, Janet Overall. You know what we want you to do. We want you to like, subscribe, and share. Tell everybody about the greatest show on these YouTube streets, Detroit in Black and White. You can catch us on all social media platforms. You can catch us on Wednesday and Friday evenings from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. and every Saturday morning from 10 o'clock to 11 a.m. We're also going to encourage you guys to join in the conversation in the comments. All right, that's my introduction. We're going to start off with the outrage of the week. So, Jim, what is your outrage?
First, I have to cancel the search party for Day because he's been missing in action, and we have people out there looking for him. So we're glad he's back. I don't have an outrage. I want to talk a little bit about. I have my T-shirt on today. I'm not participating. I'm not there, but today is the Susan Komen.
I can't see it.
Susan Komen Race for the Cure at Milliken State Park today. So hopefully they're raising the money they need. At one time, I participated probably 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. It was at Comerica Park, and there was 30 or 40,000 people there. COVID kind of killed the race. People have individual races, though. But if you have a friend that's suffering from breast cancer, a survivor, or somebody that lost their life, today's the day to go in and reconnect with a friend, or just if you can and you have the money, give $20 to save our women, because we love our women. That's all I have today. So.
Okay. All right. What about you, Allan?
I've got outrage. My outrage is Bill Pulte, whose father, people who live in Michigan, probably a lot of people live in a Pulte-built home, started in the 50s by Bill Pulte's grandfather. Bill Pulte is now the Federal Housing Agency director for Donald Trump. He's been in the position since 2020. So he was there even during the Biden administration. But what's happening is and rightly or wrongly, this part I won't argue with, but I will argue with the other part. They're going after people for mortgage fraud. So they're going after Lisa Cook, who is the first Black governor on the board of the Federal Reserve. And the reason Trump is doing that is because she is one of the people who is not voted to lower interest rates.
Right.
And he's doing everything possible. So he tried firing her. The court said no. But they're going after her, saying that she has a house in Ann Arbor and she has one in Atlanta. And they say that on her mortgage forms, she said that each one of those was her primary residence. You can only pick one. Mm-hmm. The benefit of that is that you possibly, when you say something's a primary residence, you can potentially get a better mortgage rate, and you're more eligible for some tax breaks. And so they're going after her for that, which is generally something that is not prosecuted. I mean, sometimes there might be a fine or they take away the tax exemption. So Reuters news service has now come out with a story saying that Bill Pulte's, and we have a picture of Bill Pulte here, that Bill Pulte's parents, his father and his stepmother, have a home in Bloomfield Township and a home in Florida, and they have done the same thing he's accusing her of. Then there's also ProPublica, the website has has accused 3 cabinet members of Trump of doing the same thing. And then they're also going after Senator Adam Schiff and Letitia James, the New York Attorney General. So, I mean, it becomes clear you're going after only the violators who are foes of the Trump administration. I find that criminal. You want to go after everyone, go after everyone. You don't want to, it's either one or another. You can't just selectively pick your enemies and let your people, including Bill Pulte's parents, get away with it if you're going to go after everyone else. So that's my outrage.
Well, we have one of our viewers saying that they did it to him, meaning they did it to President Trump. What is your response to that?
When you say they did it to him, outrage is public.
I guess he's saying that Trump, that's why they shouldn't did it. He's saying they did it to Trump. Trump got
talking about it in the business. In the business
so basically, he's trying to justify Trump going after his enemies. What is your response to that?
My response is that what they went after Trump in New York over the business loan and stuff and lying about stuff, they have prosecuted other people on that. Look, I mean, when you're in a high profile position, you're gonna get dinged. But it's really, normally, I've covered law enforcement for so long, they may not go after people, but if somebody comes to them and says, hey, these people have committed the same crime, you can't turn your back on that. And when he has 3 cabinet members who are also in violation of the same, rules and laws or whatever, you can't pick and choose in that situation. I mean, look, if they had gone to Joe Biden had the same loan at the same time, or his brother or his son or whatever, they would be obligated. If someone said, hey, here's the situation here, you're obligated to go after them. They went after Joe Biden's son, Hunter. I mean, there's a debate whether he should have pardoned his son or not, but
I don't know what the debate is about, because if it was my kid, I would have done the same doggone thing.
Right.
I'm not mad at him. Whatever.
No, I'm just saying there are some people who criticize him for it. But look, Trump left the U.S. attorney, David Weiss of Delaware, left him in office so that he could continue to investigate and prosecute Hunter Biden. We would never see that now. So
yeah. So I, my response to that is this. I find it it's interesting that, and both sides do it. If you are and I differentiate MAGA from Republicans. If you're a MAGA lover, listen, anything that he does is okay. It's like he's the king. We don't live where we have a king that rules. We live in a democracy. And so those of you who are okay with it, you are sick and you don't know what democracy is really about. That is Vanessa Moss' opinion. I don't care if I piss you off. That's my opinion. And not only is it my opinion, it is the truth. That's why we have the United States Constitution. The president has some powers that we cannot touch, as outlined in the United States Constitution. But if you want to go after people because they use their First Amendment right to say what they want to say, right? And if you want to go after people because, the observer says, well, they went after him. If they went after him just because they don't like him, I have a problem with that. I have a problem with them going after the president of the United States because they don't like him. But just like I have a problem with that, I have a problem with the president of the United States saying, hey, I'm going to mess up and mess with everybody who does not agree with me. Anybody who sits in the seat of power, who believes that they should sit in the seat of power and go unchecked, that is to me, that is a recipe for corruption, as far as I'm concerned.
Terry was mentioning that Mike Rogers has 2 homes, one in Florida and one in Michigan. I don't know. The issue is not, you can own as many homes as you want. The issue is if you own 3 homes, you're only supposed to be able to say one is your primary place of residence, which doesn't mean that you can't go back and forth.
Right.
But one has to be the majority of the time you're there. It has to be your primary home to get the tax breaks and get a better mortgage rate. So
Right. We have one. I read a story before we went on air, and of course, I'm not beating up on the police. I'm gonna take both sides of this. The caption of the story, to grab your attention is stopped for curfew. If it's the left line, stopped for curfew. 6-year-old ended up getting shot 13 times by Detroit Police Department. So
that is 6-year-old.
Huh?
It wasn't 6.
16.
16, I said.
16, okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's 16. So I read the story. First of all, I didn't, I know that you have to, put things out there to grab people's attention to read the story. But as I read the story, I was thinking about a conversation that I had with someone, one of my colleagues. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. We had it yesterday. Well, we talked about how there are a lot of CCW cases coming in through the city of Detroit, carrying concealed weapons without a license, right? And when I read this article, they said that, there's a big crackdown because weapons are used, and particularly guns are used when you're talking about carjackings, robberies, etc. And it is, an effort to try to thwart or cut down on crime. I get it. I also get that this young man feels like he had to carry something because he lives in a dangerous neighborhood. He carries it to protect himself. Just like the case that I was talking about yesterday to my colleague, where this young man did not have a shirt on. And he was at the gas station and he had a gun. He didn't have a license, but he had a gun. But it was the police saw the gun, right? Anyway, he was charged with CCW. He lives in a bad neighborhood, and so listen, you can't carry a gun without a license. We know that's the law. But this guy wasn't committed a crime. He's going to the neighborhood gas station to get something to drink. In the case that I'm talking about with my girlfriend, whereas this guy, he wasn't committing a crime in that he was doing something to somebody or anything like that. The crime itself is carrying a weapon without a license. But it just didn't end up, it should not have ended up like this. This young man is in a community that, is riddled with crime. He carries a gun. He's going to the store to get some cards. And when the police gave him a lawful command to stop, he took off running, and then he ends up, with gunshots. So you have people who are pissed at the police, but I'm like, listen, the police officer, believe it or not, in my opinion, was doing his job. He said, stop. This could have been avoided. He did not have to shots.
There has to be more to the story, Vanessa.
Oh, here, I'll tell you. There's a little bit. The guy is 29. The guy is 29 years old.
Okay.
He was walking to the store. They saw something suspicious. They thought maybe he had a gun on him. He started running.
Yeah.
They gave chase, and
Right.
at the end they shot him 13 times.
Right.
So that's in that case. I'm not sure the headline's a little bit. It wasn't for a curfew. It wasn't for a curfew. He was 29 years old.
Yeah.
You can be out.
Well, the headline said curfew, but the bottom line,
no, but it was.
The bottom line is this: where is the middle ground, Jim? Where's the middle ground? Because you can't, people want to be pissed off at the police, but you want the police to police and to do their job. But on the other side, you also understand that this guy wasn't, hitting somebody over the head. He wasn't, holding somebody up or anything like that. He's in his neighborhood, went to the store. I mean, where's the middle ground here?
Well, here's the issue for me. It's, we don't have all the information. And sadly, it's a critical incident that we don't know what happened from the time they first saw this young man. And I did not see the article. He's deceased. He died.
No. He's living.
Okay.
He's
so
fine.
I don't know what happened between the time that the police first attempted to make contact with him and the time he was shot. When we have those answers, we'll know in short order whether it was a justifiable shooting. And of course, the press, and that's their job. I'm not criticizing the press, are, you know.
Why can't you criticize them?
Well, they're going to accuse the police of you know, killing an innocent or shooting at an innocent man long before we know whether he's innocent or not. We don't know.
Innocent, but was he innocent? Because if he's carrying that's the thing, though. Was he innocent? If he was carrying a weapon without a license, and I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Right.
If he was carrying a gun without a license,
you can't just shoot a guy for that. Ira's on. Ira's Gardner v. Tennessee, right, Ira?
It's just, it's just very interesting, and I don't know where we're going to end up with this thing, because again, in Wayne County we have so many cases of CCW, and some of them are like the case that I alluded to in my outrage, is that this young person, he didn't have a shirt on, so you saw it, and now he's this young man is actually 20 years old, so now he has he faced the possibility of having a felony. When I mean, it's just really sad. He faced the possibility of having a felony. That's
you don't like my music says if he wasn't innocent, that he deserves it. Of course not, unless he was a threat to the police officer, and we don't know whether he was a threat or not. I'm not going to suggest that he was or he wasn't, but carrying a gun, we've had Detroit Will Breathe. That Tristan, I think his name is, has come out, and we talked about it before. It said that the gun laws in Detroit are racist, right? Because what you're doing and what you're referring to is some guy puts a gun in his glove box because he wants to take his 14-year-old daughter to, I don't know, dance class at the high school. He wants to protect himself and his daughter. He has not committed a crime. He doesn't deserve, in my opinion, he doesn't deserve to be in jail, right? There's other options, but if he's not a threat, he should not be shot. If he's not a threat to the lives of the police officers, he should not be shot. And we don't know that answer.
In the case of someone that's not shot, though, you go, Allan, after I ask this question. In the case of someone that was the person that I'm talking about, do you think he should end up with a felony on his record? We don't have diversion anymore in Wayne County because they're so overwhelmed with CCWs, and they don't have enough people working in the Wayne County prosecutor's office. So this 20-year-old who graduated from high school, who has a job, who was in the neighborhood, not wearing a shirt, but the question becomes, should he have a felony on his record?
I mean, I think this guy, well, first of all, this guy's gun was not loaded, which the police don't know at the time, obviously.
Right.
It says, describing Pete's hidden hand is gripped in a way that suggests he had an illegal gun.
Yeah.
Special operations officers driving him approached him. When Pete ran, they gave chase. The pursuit ended with an officer shooting Pete 13 times, leaving him laying in bloody in his driveway with 3 generations of family in the house. And the question becomes, if he did not draw his gun and he just was in possession of a gun, it's questionable why they would have to shoot him, period, but why 13 times? And maybe, Jim, you can say how police are trained to respond to those.
I agree with you, Allan, but it sounds like a well-written report, and like my music's talking about the police and taking their statements with a grain of salt, and I appreciate his statement, but police know how to write police reports, right?
Right.
I've written thousands of them. I'm not saying they're inaccurate, but it's what's going on in the mind of the police officer on a call like that. If he feels like his life's in danger, if the guy's just running away, absolutely. It doesn't matter if he has a gun or not. If he's got a gun and he turns and points it at you, you don't have a heck of a lot of time to decide what you're going to do, whether you want to take his life or lose your own. Yeah. So we don't know. And you asked the question about, we've talked about this topic. You asked if he should have a felony. Well, my opinion is no. But that's the law. So
I understand.
follow the law or not follow the law?
You know what? you need people who can, that's the law, but there's always exceptions to the rule, right? And there are things that people can do. Like with this young man, I would think that given that he's 20 years old, given that he is a high school graduate, given that he is working, given that he was not doing anything, like he hadn't hurt anybody, he has no criminal history or anything like that, that he should be in a position where he could get maybe HIDA or something. I don't know, but what I do know is that we need to, and maybe we can get Warren Evans back on. The Wayne County Prosecutor's Office is overwhelmed with all these cases, and their staff is overwhelmed. And so, when
But
you
she doesn't really report to him,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So
She doesn't really report to him.
he controls the budget.
Oh, gotcha.
I think one of the things,
the budget. He has the money. Okay. So you have to make it where people want to work, and maybe we can work things, be able to work some things out. I don't know how this thing is going to end up with this young man, but a colleague and I had a lengthy conversation about this, and because they don't have the diversion program, it's just really, really sad, because I don't think in this instance that person should end up with a felony. They should at least be given the opportunity to not have a felony on their record through some kind of program. But that's me.
I think part of the story is also questioning how well these cases are being investigated by internal affairs, and whether they were justified. And Jim, maybe you can speak to this, but it seems there are times where it's a pretty broad umbrella there to say, I felt my life was threatened, when you're chasing somebody who ends up having, I kind of doubt he pulled out a gun and pointed at him. One, if it's not loaded, why would you point it? So the question becomes, what becomes like, my life, I felt threatened. You're chasing a guy who's running away. He's got a gun. Okay, so he's potentially a threat, as you might see him, but is he a threat to that officer that they have to shoot him 13 times? And I think the story is about whether these cases are really being investigated properly, and whether the police are getting away with doing these kind of shootings and using an excuse of saying, I felt my life threatened. And I've never done the job. I know it can be a scary moment when you're chasing someone with a gun, but if their back's to you and they're running away, and like I say, I'm skeptical that he pulled out a gun when it's not loaded. So.
What I found interesting in the story is that his family members is like, he was shot 13 times, and he was just going to the store to get some cards. No, that's not why he was shot. You guys are characterizing it. It's wrong the way that they characterize it. And I'm a defense attorney. I'm like, no, that is not why he was shot. But by the same token, I understand what you're saying, Allan, is if he was running away, his back was to them. And again, we weren't there. We don't know what exactly transpired between the individual, the young man that was running, as well as the police officer. And I certainly am not beating up on police officer, because the reality is this: it takes all of us. It takes a village for this whole thing to work. And so I'm going to have my opinion. I'm going to have my position. They're going to have their position. The other party's going to have their position. But hopefully we'll all be able to come to some kind of conclusion that will work for society as a whole.
Let's read Ira's. Let's put that back up. Ira Todd says, let's be honest. Some problems in law enforcement, in most cases after police shootings, the union comes in, and then the union attorneys come in, and they typed out the report, ignoring sometimes that the officers haven't even processed what just happened. So it's look, we need the police. If something happens, who do we call first? If there's a crime or something, someone's breaking our home, somebody shot somebody, we call the police. We need the police, but we need the police to also, they have so much power. They have a gun, they have power, they have authority over you, and they should use it responsibly. That's all we're saying here.
And there needs to be a time. Ira's talking about the time between the officer's incident, the critical incident, and writing the report. There has to be a gap. You can't push a police officer into a squad room to write a report after he's been involved in a critical incident. It's probably 24 hours before he should make that report.
Well, I'm going to address a a comment. It says Vanessa's a sellout. I love it. That's your opinion. Just because you say it doesn't mean that it's true. That's one of my sayings. I believe that, and I don't know what you sell out in reference to what. Because some things I am a sellout to. Okay, but thank you for the compliment.
And Ira's talking about federal agents getting involved. When do they get? I shouldn't say that. The federal agents, I guess yesterday or the day before, ended up in a fatal shooting in Chicago, which is unfortunate. Federal agents are involved. Well, I'm going to leave the federal agents alone.
Well, look, federal agents come in sometimes if they see it as a civil rights issue or something, where they'll investigate it as a civil rights violation involving the police department. So they do. The FBI has investigated shootings. Usually,
no, I'm not saying they don't investigate shootings. They investigate bank robberies. They investigate shootings, but right. They're not usually the first person on scene in an incident.
Right.
That's what I'm referring to. No disrespect. I'm going to tell you right now, the shooting that happened in Utah, without the federal government and their resources, we had some bombings here in Trenton, and ATF, FBI, they have resources that you wouldn't even dream of. I remember having a barricaded gunman when ATF, a guy by Bill Temple was his name. He was assistant special agent in charge of ATF. He got me a robot in about 15 minutes. Here comes this robot to go into the house. And, so the resources are there. I am in no way criticizing the federal government. My only point was they're not dealing with us every day like Detroit is.
I mean, look, the federal government's not perfect. I mean, the FBI has violations the same. Any law enforcement agency, they've been found, doing questionable things. We see, I have on my other website, ticklethewire.com, we see federal agents getting convicted all the time on violations of the law. So.
Okay, so we're going to cut to commercial. Then we're going to go to some of our comments. Some people have outrages, so we're going to address that, but we're going to go to a break. Thank you.
Nearly 30,000 vacant lots all over the city of Detroit are for sale right now. That's right. Nearly 30,000 vacant lots are available now, starting at just $100. The lot next to your house or the lot down the street. Make it yours today in just a few simple clicks. Find out if it is available by visiting buildingdetroit.org. At the Detroit Land Bank Authority, side lots are just $100 and neighborhood lots sell for $250. You can apply and pay online today by visiting buildingdetroit.org. And if you don't see the lot you're looking for, call our offices. Our phone number is 313-974-6869. Again, that is 313-974-6869.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabria, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in a home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Okay, we're back, Detroit in black and white. Hit that like, subscribe, share button. I did not say good morning to our Facebookers, and I did not say good morning on the air. And I want everybody to make sure that they recognize our Lady T, producer Teresa. Hey, Lady T. So here are some of the comments. Mike Bunch, he says his outrage is these politicians taking APAC money. They are all compromised.
Let's talk about that. Let's stop there for a second, can we?
Okay. Yeah.
Alan, want to comment on that?
Go ahead. You can go first. I'll jump in.
I don't know. Giving money to APAC, is that a bad idea? People can do whatever they want, right? APAC is a political, to me, I don't care if it's the NRA or the Brady Bill law people or Everytown. These are political action groups, and people, they can give money to whoever they want to give money to.
So I think he said these politicians are compromised. Do you think by taking money from these political action groups that they leave these politicians become compromised? I
think whether we like it or not, that's the way it is today, right? It doesn't matter who the group is. We've gotten some feedback or pushback, I guess, on Haley Stevens. Well, We had her on the show last night, and we talked about some of the good things she did, right?
Mhm.
We only want to focus on the bad things when we talk to politicians. Give them an opportunity to talk about some of the good things they did. Nobody's happy about what's going on in the Middle East. It's been that way
Forever.
I remember I signed up for a class. It was called at the University of Michigan Dearborn. I had a class. It was called the Arab-Israeli conflict. Those people were fighting in that class. I had to get out of that class. I don't even know if they even completed the class, right? This was 1982 or whatever it was. This is not changing, right? Nobody wants genocide. Nobody wants to watch innocent kids starve to death. But is that really what we're talking about here, Allan?
Yeah. Well, here's my feeling about it. I mean, AIPAC is, I don't agree with everything that AIPAC stands for, but look, AIPAC gives money to people who they think are going to represent, are going to be supportive of Israel, which Haley Stevens has been. So I don't know that she's compromised. I don't know if she's changed her mind and saying, well, I hate Israel, but give me money and I'll like Israel. I think, look, the Arab Arab Anti-Defamation League, they have lobbying groups. We see money coming in. I mean, we'll see money coming in different races. Rashida Tlaib has money from some Arab groups. Haley Stevens will get some money from AIPAC. There'll be other. Do they have? I mean, I don't think the influence of AIPAC is as great as it used to be on Capitol Hill, but they're a lobbying group. They do lobbying successfully, but they're not. There's a lot of lobbying groups in DC, and the thing becomes, if you're voting against your conscience, and you have businesses, you have different industries represented by lobbying groups, and when you see people voting against the interests of their constituency, then that's a problem. If it's a business matter where you don't believe in like coal or whatever, but you're saying the coal industry is giving you money, and then you're like, yeah, I'm going to vote for that bill. So anyways, it says, and Allan, you stop it too. Well, look, you know what? People can support Israel. I like I say, I support the right for Israel to exist. I support a two-state solution. I support the Palestinian people. I do not support Hamas. I think Hamas has been an oppressive regime there. They've beaten reporters who report anything against them. But anyways, Israel is not perfect by any means in this situation. But it's a sellout. I mean, look, I support Israel. I'm Jewish. My parents are Holocaust survivors. Half my mother's side of the family moved to Israel after the war. My father came from Poland. There were 3.3 million Jews before the war. Now there's about 6,000. I support a place for Jews to be able to go where they're not going to be wiped out. And when we get into the whole issue of genocide, what's happening in Gaza is horrible, but Hamas is also in their constitution is for the elimination of the Jews and Israel. So is that,
So I think that what the viewer is saying, his outrage is these politicians taking money from AIPAC. My outrage is these politicians being bought. Okay,
well, they're all bought. In fact, Mike Bunch for his
if you think that these people getting all this money, that they're not going to cater to those people's interests, you're wrong. And it's a select few. I'm sorry, it's a select few. So I understand what Mike Bunch's outrage is. I absolutely get it. And we see it here locally. We see it here in this election that's going on right now. There's dark money going around. There's a whole lot of money. And guess what? That money goes towards putting your name out there, making sure people see your name all the time, see what you say that you stand for. But at the end of the day, you're really going to answer to the interests of those people who paid for you to be there. And that is the reality. So when people say that I'm working on behalf of the people, okay, when you say you are working on behalf of the people, what people? Let's be specific here. You're talking about a select group of people. So I get exactly what Mike Bunch is.
And we thank him, but it's about power, Vanessa, and power controls politics.
I understand that, and so once people understand that it is about power, it's really not about people. I think that people will look at things a bit differently and maybe operate a bit different.
Well, hasn't that ship sailed?
Okay.
It's become about power and not people for a long time, Allan. I've said that before. You want to weigh in on that? I mean, there was a comment, like my music made a comment with Israel has a right to exist is just meaningless propaganda. It's all propaganda, but I don't really know what you mean by meaningless Don't you agree that they have? I guess he doesn't agree that they have a right to exist.
If I say America has a right to exist, is that propaganda? I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
So we have another outrage. Karen Winston, she says her outrage is Charlie Kirk assassination terminology. He was murdered. JFK was assassinated. That is her comment.
I'd like to address, you don't like my music. It says,
please.
Does Israel have a right to exist? Implies that anyone who criticizes Israel thinks it's otherwise. It's total bullshit. People can criticize Israel. People don't have to support Israel. People don't have to like Israel. People don't like that. They don't like that. They don't have to like Jews. And there are plenty of people who don't like Jews. And I'm not saying if you don't like Israel, you don't like Jews, but you have a right to not like whatever you want. And I'm not calling anyone, I'm not criticizing. I understand people criticizing Israel.
Well, you've done it yourself, Allan. I've sat on this panel with you for a long time, and you don't hide from facts. You're willing to go out and tell people what's really going on, and I appreciate that. And everybody that's paying attention, everybody that's our colleagues, they should see Allan's track record. He doesn't buddy up to Israel when they make mistakes. He doesn't buddy up to Netanyahu. He doesn't support Netanyahu. So,
well, I say when the person says, why do you need to say Israel has a right to exist? Because Hamas says Israel has no right to exist. We have the right to wipe out. From the river to the sea is meant as a phrase to say, push, Israel into the sea. I'm just saying, I say that because there are people who say Israel has no right to exist. In the same way, I don't agree with all the policies. I don't agree what's going on in Gaza right now. But, look at Russia. I don't hear anyone saying Russia doesn't have a right to exist. People don't like Putin. They don't agree with his policies. And so I say that because there are people, including Hamas, who say Israel has no right to exist, at least as a Jewish state. So,
well, let's go back. Israel was attacked, right, by Hamas.
Right.
So
I'm going to go back to some of the comments. One of the stories that came out was it yesterday, day before yesterday? I knew about it on Monday, but it was a story that came out about Triumph Church. Pastor Kinlock, where Pastor Kinlock is the pastor, says that church owes nearly $30,000 in unpaid water bills. And there was somebody in the comments says that, do we want a leader who cannot pay their bills, serving as mayor of the city of Detroit? I don't know who made that comment, but I did read that earlier. So I think last night, Allan, you said that he had a Zoom, some kind of Zoom conference or whatever to address it.
Yeah, he didn't really address. He just had a press conference to talk about.
I will say that, I have friends who, in particularly, I have one very good friend I've known since teenager. He's a pastor for church in the city of Detroit, and they were slaughtered by the water bills and these drainage sewage bills, so much so that the church was in jeopardy of being closed down because these bills were so outrageous. The point that I'm trying to make is this is not the only church, this is not the only business that has those kind of issues, but he is the only person that is running for mayor of the city of Detroit. I understand that he's going to appeal to some people because they're on a water payment plan, right? You pay $10. I think that's what it is. You pay $10 and then
they're paying more
for you to, the goal is for you to, they're paying the bill in whole. For people who live on a budget, for people who understand that, and people who are on that very same payment plan, be it business owners, be it homeowners, be it whoever, they can relate to that. So, you could look at that story negatively, or you could look at it the way that I look at it. It is of no moment. Again, I will say this. It is particularly interesting that this goes back to the PAC money. This goes back to the media. And I know that Allan will probably give some pushback, but the media plays a big role in who is going to be selected, not elected, into these offices. Okay. And I'm going to use an example. Back when Duggan ran the first time and he couldn't get on the ballot, guess what? Almost every day, the newspaper showed people how to write this man's name in. When Mary Sheffield, who got out very early and said, "Hey, I'm running for mayor of the city of Detroit." And truth be told, a few years back, I knew that she was running because that was what and not only was she running, but the word was that she is going to be the mayor. The same thing happened when Kwame was coming through. He was still working in Lansing. The word on the street was he's going to be the mayor of the city of Detroit. He's going to run. And you saw the media run with that narrative. People believe what they see. If you hear it enough and you see it enough, i.e., get a lot of PAC money, you sending informationals to people every day. You see commercials. You inundated with commercials every day. You begin to believe what you see, not what you know. You begin to believe what you hear, not what you know. So
that's part of the programming process.
Exactly.
But I wouldn't call it a selection. It's still a legal election. It's kind of cynical to say it's a selection. Well, the press is just reporting what they're hearing.
It is a selection, okay? And so the point that I'm trying to make is there's somebody here that says, "Hey, I want to, support." Basically, I get the feeling that they're not going to support Pastor Kinlock, and that is their right. But to pick on someone about something like this when there's many businesses, I have friends who have businesses who watch Detroit Black and White. They complain about this very same real matter. So, that's that. So who else did I want to address? Kenneth Reed said, "Good morning, team. Hopefully all is well this morning." Timothy Squire Bay said, and he's talking in reference to the young man that's carrying a gun without a license. He could have gotten a license to carry. And a lot of people don't do that. And I really don't understand that. I really, really don't understand that. You also have Miss Suzuki say social psychologist Joshua Carell created a racial bias police dilemma video game that all cadets should experience and dissect in the police academy.
We saw Jamison Williams, the football player who was caught with a gun, and he did not. I mean, the gun was legal, but he didn't have a carrying permit. He just didn't bother to get it. And the guy's a multi-millionaire, and it's not, he just didn't think of it. I think it's some people don't really want to be part of the system. I see some people don't get driver's licenses and they drive. I saw in DC, I did a story. There were like 1,000, I think it was like 1,000 people a month arrested without driver's licenses.
I have a family member, God rest his soul, my brother that passed a couple of years ago. He didn't have a license, and he bought every kind of car he wanted. I mean, you don't have to have a license to drive a car, but people drive like that all the time. We're going to cut to commercial, then we're going to go back to some of our comments.
Homeownership opportunities are rising in the city of Detroit, and there's a house out there that's right for you and your family. You don't even have to worry about credit or getting a loan. You can win a house for as little as $1,000 and pay for the renovation cost as you go. It all starts at buildingdetroit.org and the Detroit Land Bank Authority. Our auction and Own It Now programs offer a variety of houses and neighborhoods all over the city of Detroit. These homes are in desperate need of repair and new ownership. You can begin by going to our interactive map and detailed property listings to find the right fit for you. It won't be easy, and renovation costs are not cheap, but our compliance team is there every step of the way. We will help you track your progress and connect you with local discounts to save you more money. We have already sold more than 15,000 homes in the city of Detroit, and our inventory is shrinking fast, so you don't want to miss out on this wonderful opportunity. Start your home buying journey today by visiting buildingdetroit.org.
We're back in Detroit in black and white, your Saturday mornings edition. You can catch us every Wednesday, Friday evening from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. and every Saturday morning from 10 to 11 a.m. You can catch us on all social media platforms. Good morning to all our Facebookers and good morning to all our YouTubers. So I'm going to go back to some of the comments. Ira Todd, he's been hot this morning. He says we need to take the money out of politics. They are buying and controlling politicians. Jill says they're still way too strong and influential. Mike Bunch says taxpayers give Israel billions. They turn around and give our poll millions for what? Jill agrees with Ira. Power Org says and Haley Stevens should not be sent to the United States Senate. David Silverado, good morning. So out of touch, Dee is going to go bankrupt again. Terry, thank you, Mr. 1213. I enjoyed the compliment. Terry McCrimmon says, how did, well, you already answered that. Jill Sheridan says, power to control the people question. Davis says,
no, that's not a question. That's an answer.
Can police use rubber bullets? Anthony Davis asks. Stephanie Jackson says, the same reason Black Lives Matter. Let's see. Deborah Harris, she said, I made that comment about the unpaid water bills. Okay, Deborah. Janet Overall says, so were the churches in my area outrageous water bills? And who else? We've already addressed.
MZ Suzuki had an interesting point about Triumph Church. Did you see that?
I didn't. What did he say?
I think it's. Well, I don't know.
We scream about the negative and whisper about the positive. Triumph has provided technology for Detroit kids to attend school online during the pandemic. Shout about that. Not only that, listen, they give away. There's car giveaways. I know a relative of my cousin's, it's not my cousin, was a recipient of a vehicle. There's always food. They give food. Triumph does a lot of work in the community.
That's great. But who in this group thinks, who in this panel of colleagues here that are weighing in here, who thinks that a water bill will have any influence on whether he gets elected or not? I think it has zero influence.
But
for most, I think for most people, they decide it's totally irrelevant. Or I've seen mixed comments on it. People say he can't manage a church. He's, how can he manage a huge budget? Other people say, who cares? And that's just the way it is. You put it out there and let people decide if it matters or not,
Yeah, but I do find it. I do think it's interesting that he's getting all this negative, something about him 30 years ago, his brother, now the church, and nothing. The other candidate is squeaky clean, right?
That's politics. It's dirty politics, right?
It's dirty politics. And listen, I think that you got to fight fire. You gonna come for me? Okay, you don't come for me. What you gonna get it back? We haven't seen that, which is unfortunate because we're like 50 days out or 49 days out. I mean, it's just the window is getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
How about the Kenneth interesting point about not watching? I think he's talking about television. But how about the comment by the governor of Utah who said that social media is a cancer? I wouldn't say social media is any more of a cancer than media.
I agree.
I mean, social media, the internet is an amazing thing. I remember when I was on strike at the Detroit News, I got a computer, I signed up for the internet, and a friend sent me an email for the first time, and I was blown away by that. It's an amazing thing. It does amazing stuff for us. We can order online, we can research things, we can communicate with it, but it also has a very evil side. There's fraud, there's pedophiles out there, there's people committing all types of fraud on the internet. So it has pros and cons, and it's like up to us to figure out. It's still the Wild West out there.
Does it make us lazy though? That's my question, Allan, Vanessa, our viewers. Does it make us lazy? We follow people and we don't make our own decisions. Does the internet make us lazy? Does TV make us lazy?
Or does it make us cheap?
You can spend all day on the internet. You don't have to leave your house. You can order.
Does it make us cheap? Okay.
I don't have. I mean, living in Detroit, it's sometimes just a pain in the ass for me to have to drive out to the suburbs to get something, and instead I go, I'll order on Amazon, even though I don't like Jeff Bezos. I order, and then sometimes that same day that product is there that I've been waiting for. The next day, we freak out if it's more than 2 days. We're like, what the hell, So.
I think that Timothy Squire Bay made an interesting point. This goes back to Pastor Kinlock. He says that he says that. Was it him? Yeah, he said Trump filed bankruptcy 3 or 4 times, and he is the president of the United States of America. So it goes back to what you say. It doesn't really matter. I'm like, I mean, it's the mudslinging, but can you come with anything better than that? Especially if if you are in the lead, you should be on cruise control, right? This little stuff that you're doing, or do you really find him as a threat? It's just very, very interesting as far as I'm concerned. We also said Terry Crimmon, I guess there was some conversation online about auto insurance, and he says that he thinks he's the only one in the state that pays less than $75 a month in auto insurance.
Pretty good.
We are, because I don't pay $75 a month. He says Cure Auto Insurance. Karen Winston, she says she loves the convenience of Amazon shopping. I hate to say this, but I don't have an Amazon account, and I have never ordered anything.
Wow, really?
Never.
Yeah, how did you go shopping for everything you need?
I go shopping. I mean, I do shop online, but not Amazon shopping. But I prefer
Nordstrom ain't on Amazon.
I prefer to go out and buy my things.
Nordstrom ain't there. You can't find Nordstrom on Amazon, can you?
Huh?
You can't find Nordstrom on Amazon, can you, Vanessa?
No, but I like going out and buying my things, whether it's apparel or things for my place or whatever the case may be. I prefer to do that. So yeah, people laugh at me when I say I don't shop Amazon. Somebody gave me an Amazon gift card. I was like, what am I going to do with this? I guess I should gift it to somebody because I'm not going to use it. I'm still old-fashioned in some things, and that's one of them. I know people who grocery shop. People don't even, which is another thing. I'm bouncing all over the place, but one of the things that we hear a lot about is you want foot traffic in neighborhoods, and you want coffee shops, and you want stores and boutiques and things like that. A lot of people are doing what Allan does. They're ordering their stuff online. A lot of people are ordering their groceries. They have their groceries delivered. People aren't going out to the stores like they used to. So, things have really changed. So it'd be interesting to see what changes we have here in the city of Detroit.
I mean, Amazon is so
you can have it.
Amazon makes it so easy to shop that, you can order a pair of pants. It doesn't fit. You can either go to Whole Foods. They have a little area there where you can return it, or you can go to UPS. And there's, Amazon right down the street, and there's UPS.
You have to pay for it to be returned?
No, you just bring it back. You print out something that says return from Amazon, and you go in there, or they'll print it out for you. And yeah, it's nothing. It makes it so easy. So if you want to, it's hard buying clothes online, but if it's that easy to return, you'll take that chance.
Stephanie said send her the card too.
Can we go back to Miss Sheila for just a second? She had made a comment, and we missed her. She only made a couple comments. How do you feel about women have a lock on their bedroom door for privacy? You better have a lock on your door if you're renting in someone's home, right? I'm not sure.
Miss Sheila said, how do you feel about having a lock on the door of your bedroom if you're renting
You
somewhere?
better have a lock.
Yeah, you should have a lock, but the person that owns the home should be coming into the house at all. You have the exclusive use and possession of the home.
Correct.
It should just be coming in.
I think she's talking about a room. I don't know if she's talking about a whole house or just part of the house.
Awful though. They can't just, first of all, if you're renting and somebody owns the home, if they want to come into the home, they're supposed to give you notice. They can't just be barging in there, coming in there and doing what they want. So
I think she's talking about a portion of a home. Maybe the owner lives in the home.
She said houses, but I remember last week, and we did get a chance to address it. She was talking about somebody got evicted because they had a lock on their bedroom door. And I'm like, that is crazy. There has to be more to that story. But yeah, the reason for the eviction, she says, is is because this person had a lock on the bedroom door. That's crazy.
Doesn't anyone argue with themselves anymore? Right. Of course we do, but we have more fun arguing with each other.
Who said that?
You don't like my music. Isn't the water department a total mess in Detroit? That right. I don't know, Jill.
It was. I don't know if it still is, but
the media commands attention to the good and the evil, be it truth or not. Karen Winston, thank you, Karen. Kenneth Powell, thank you for all your positive comments tonight. Yeah. Today, this morning. It's a morning. I guess it feels like night to me already.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the weather or whatever. Last night I was tired, and today I'm trying to get upbeat. I'm not sad about anything. My energy level is like this, and I haven't had anything to drink. I haven't had anything to eat this morning. I'm talking about, I haven't smoked anything. I haven't had an edible. I don't do it, and I haven't had any alcohol. But I'm just on chill mode this morning. I really am. So
Mike Bunch talks about Israel being planted, and he's not technically wrong, but it's not we need to start separating the government from the people.
What does that mean? What does that mean, planted?
I think he's talking about established, when Israel was established in 1948. Was it 1948?
48
in the Middle East. But I think I understand what his point is. I think he feels like they were forced. But that was their homeland too, right?
Well, the Jews have been there for thousands of years. People say they're not the indigenous people there. They are. The Arabs are. The UN divided that area up. The British controlled that whole area.
Right.
They divided up in 1948 and said, this is Palestine, this is Israel, and the Arab country said, hell no, Israel is not going to exist. They attacked Israel in 48, Egypt, all the countries there. They lost, and Israel continued to be established. I get it. I understand the hard feelings there and stuff like that. But I'll tell you, the area is so complicated. I was in Israel in 2022. I went to the West Bank, to Bethlehem on a tour, and we had a Palestinian Christian who was our tour guide, and he said, there aren't a lot of Christians left in Bethlehem. He said, help out the businesses, buy in the shop. So we went to Johnny's Souvenir. I raised my hand. I said, what's going on? He said, I can't talk about it now. We went to the souvenir shop. We're having a cup of tea. And I said, what's happening here? And he goes, the Christians are afraid of the Muslims. He goes, they're moving out of Bethlehem. And I said, well, what about the Palestinian Authority, which is the governing authority in at least parts of the West Bank? And he said they could care less. And I said, what's going on? He says, Hamas and then Fatah is in the West Bank. He says, if it wasn't for Israel, this is before the war. He said there would be all-out war. He said it would be vicious. They would be killing each other, both sides. And so the only reason I bring that up is that it's complicated. I don't condone Israel, controlling the West Bank, but we need a government in there that's stable. And that we have to have Hamas and Fatah get along so that they don't get along. They hate each other. And then people don't trust Fatah. They think it's corrupt. So there's a lot of complications there, and it doesn't make excuses for a lot of stuff that's going on, but it's a lot more complicated than, we see from the outside.
Well, we have come to the end of the show. And thank you for the insight that said fall makes you sleepy, because I seriously I am, thanks Timothy, because I promise you I am on chill mode. Deborah Harris says if you need help with your water bill, there's a program. Yeah, and Trump Church is taking advantage of the program, as well
Right.
as other businesses. Also,
Most are residential who are purchased. There's 35,000 accounts that program. The lion's share are residential.
And then Kenneth Reed, I'm going to say this. He said he loves going to the slaughterhouse at the Eastern Market for our meats, and various stores for our apparel. I'm going to say this, and then we're going to close out. One, yesterday I was riding with a friend of mine. I had no idea they still had slaughterhouses at the Eastern Market. I had no idea. Ooh, I'm sorry. Oh no. And that's great that he goes to the various stores for his apparel. That's awesome that you shop in Detroit for your food as well as your clothing. Again, I had no idea. The last time I saw slaughter animals when my grandparents were living, and they went down there to get their bird for Thanksgiving, and I thought that was gross. So
I worked in a slaughterhouse. I worked
did you? Oh no.
for a brief time. My friend's family and was partners in a Utica packing where they were killing 7,500 hogs a day. There were two parts to it. There was a slaughter part, and then there was a packing part. I worked on the packing side, where part of it for a while, for 12 hours a day, I cut kidneys off of carcasses as they rolled on the assembly line.
You hear these animals screaming as they're killing these animals?
You know what? There were trucks coming from everywhere, from Indiana, Ohio, from Michigan.
You know where I'm getting ready to go with this. That's why I don't eat what? That's why I don't eat meat.
Right. And they unloaded them. They would bring them in a pen. They would start the sprinklers would start to wash them off, and some of them started humping each other. I think realizing it's the end of the road, and then I went on the slaughter side just to see it. They would clamp the pig's legs and hang them upside down. Somebody would poke the pig right in the throat. They would stun it, poke it in the throat. Somebody would take a bandsaw and just go cut the pig in half.
Oh goodness! Well,
it would be butchered. Then it would be butchered on the other side.
Okay,
I'm not having bacon this morning.
Yeah, enjoy your bacon, enjoy your meat, and join us again on Wednesday, Detroit Black and White. Thank everybody. Thank you all for participating. Have a good weekend. Bye.